She's like, I would eat his heart in a marketplace. Girl, me too. If someone messed with me, I would eat their heart in a marketplace. That is a crazy insult. Which I saw the trailer for. It looks freaky. It looks obsessive. It looks weird. And I am down. I will be sat at that movie theater, so I'm gonna be sat reading the book. Hi everyone, and welcome to my mid-year book freakout tag. Is it mid-July? Yes, it's mid-July. This is probably coming out in the 20th, somewhere in there. Did I look it up? Mid-year is actually July 2nd, so I think it's valid to still post this. I know most people posted their mid-year book freakout tags like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I mean, I just started this channel. Let's get some grace. So today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I've read this year so far. Not in extreme detail, but I will be talking about my favorites, biggest disappointments, things I'm looking forward to. I have been in a major reading slump in July. I have not read a single book in July other than The Vegetarian. It's kind of bad. Yeah. And even The Vegetarian, I read over half of that in June. So it's fine. We're going to talk about it. Okay, to get into the books that I've read 39 books this year so far, which is pretty average for me, I think, especially since I didn't read any books in April and I didn't read any books in July yet. It's usually how it goes. I end up with like 2 months where I don't read any books and then some months where I read like 14. Don't ask me how that happens. It just does. I am a full-time student, not in literature, so audiobooks are getting me through, really. I think about half of the books I've read have been print, a quarter have been audio, and a quarter have been digital. Do I think audiobooks are reading? Yes. Is that a conversation for a different time? Yes. But I am counting audiobooks. Before I start, I want to be transparent. I got most of these questions from Carrie Can Read. She said that she got most of her questions from With Cindy. I don't know who started this tag. I'm just answering questions. Okay, so starting off with disappointments. My biggest disappointment this year was a book that I was looking forward to for so long. I heard that it was coming out. I think it was coming out early January maybe, and I was so excited to read this book. I heard what it was about, was like, that is right up my alley. I read it and I was so disappointed. I wanted to love it, but I did not. I had to go look it up. That's The Favorites by Layne Fargo. Yes, and it's this novel about two ice skaters who kind of start a romance, and it ends up being pretty toxic. They're rivals. It's this epic love story, and honestly, when I read the kind of summary for the book, it reminded me a lot of Tessa Virtue and Scott Moore, which fantastic ice skaters. So I read this, and I was like, I would eat this up because that's a lot of tension being in this highly competitive sport. And I also love books that kind of explore obsession and toxicity. So I thought it was going to be right up my alley. It was not. It ended up, spoilers ahead for a little bit, it ended up being sort of this love triangle. And I didn't find it super well written. The plot was kind of choppy. I also really reminded me of Challengers. It really reminded me of Challengers, but not as good. Challengers, fantastic movie. I love the movie. Challengers is a fantastic story. And I love the tension between all three characters. And because I had watched such a successful love triangle and one that had so much tension and unresolved feelings and things like that, I was kind of hoping for more of that in The Favorites. It just fell flat for me. I ended up giving it 3 stars, which I think was generous because I still wanted to love the book, but it's not that great for me. I also didn't mention this year, I have an average of 3.47 when rating books, which is significantly lower than my typical average, which is around 3.8 to 4. So this year's been a rough year. There were a few other disappointments, few honorable mentions. Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros disappointed me a bit. We Were Liars. Y'all lied to me. You lied to me. That book was not for me. The book was not for me. 1.5 stars. Not it. And then the other disappointment I had this year was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which I gave a 3 star. It just wasn't what I was looking for, what I expected from the book. I also have read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which was phenomenal. And even though they're 2 books accomplishing extremely separate things, I couldn't help but compare them the entire time, with the story about interviewing a famous individual and then being tied some way to them. It just was hard to get past for me. Okay, to move on to the best books of the year. I'm going to start with my most well-written book, because I have two favorites this year thus far. I have 2 5 stars, and one of them is a reread and one of them is new. And the new one, I think, has been the best, most well-written book that I have read this year. That would be none other than Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. This book is phenomenal. I know that it's got its flowers. On BookTube before with Jack Edwards, he talked profusely about this book. This book is incredible. I think just the story is amazing. It's about this young kid who runs away from home, ends up sheltering in a library, meets the librarian, and goes through a whole other journey with those individuals. And then it's also about another man named Nakata who is also kind of traveling around. He can speak to cats. And it's just phenomenal. Haruki Murakami is fantastic when it comes to magical realism, and his books have that surrealist quality as well. It's just phenomenal. Cats talk, fish fall out of the sky. It's a great book. And to bring it back to the question, this is the most well-written book I have read this year, and in a long time. I could not help every single sentence but admire Haruki Murakami. Every single thing that he put into this book, every detail was so meticulously thought out. Every sentence, you can tell that there was thoughts and premeditation and care put into this book. There are tons of references throughout this book to pop culture and cultural moments, and it's just amazing the amount of care that Haruki Murakami put into this book. The translators are phenomenal. It's an amazing book. I would definitely recommend this to anybody. Okay. Stick with me for a second. My favorite book that I have read this year, other than Kafka on the Shore, is a reread from last year. And I loved it the first time I read it. I think this is my 3rd time reading it. And every time it just gets better. There's more to find. Fantastic book. And that is Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. Now hear me out. Most of you are going to have read Shakespeare in classes, which is fair. I did the same. I had to read Twelfth Night, Macbeth, Hamlet. I also read A Midsummer Night's Dream, but that was personal. Yeah, last year or 2 years ago, Shakespeare's writing finally clicked for me, and I wanted to give another one of his plays a try, and I ended up doing Much Ado About Nothing because it's a comedy, and we didn't really explore his comedy, especially since the one comedy we did do, Twelfth Night, was in 8th grade, and we were way too young to understand most of the comedy, and that anyways flew right over our heads. This book, though, is fantastic. I think a lot of people, when they think of Shakespeare, think about his dense writing and lots of meaning, but Much Ado is just a funny play. It's funny, the characters are interesting, there's a lot going on, and it's not super commentary forward compared to some of his other works. It's not very dense, it's not very heavy. It's a fantastic book. I have heard people say that Pride and Prejudice or Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights are the original rivals to lovers, original enemies to lovers. I'm going to say it. This book right here, Shakespeare did it first. I'm sure that other people had done it before Shakespeare, but reading this book felt like a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the other enemies to lovers that I've been seeing now. If you like that trope and you want to get into Shakespeare, read this book. It feels insulting to tropify this book, but if I can get anyone to read Much Ado, that's just what I'm going to say. It's a fantastic novel. It's about Beatrice and Benedict, who have kind of known each other for a while, and they vehemently dislike each other, especially Beatrice. And that is another thing that I love about this book. Beatrice, our female protagonist, main character, she runs circles around Benedict. She is smarter than him, constantly bests him in conversations, and it's so satisfying to read about. Also, she's extremely witty, and she matches Benedict's wit and even goes above it. There are a few lines in here that I genuinely could quote just because. Like, they're so funny. There's one time where someone mentions Benedict, and she was like, yeah, I would rather burn my study than have him in my books. Master insult. That is a crazy insult. There are so many other crazy insults in this book. I have some of it tabbed, a lot of it underlined because it's just funny. It's great. She is such a real character because when someone insults her and like her sibling, she is like, I would eat his heart in a marketplace. Girl, me too. If someone messed with me, I would eat their heart in a marketplace. That is a crazy insult. I have never heard that. He is so creative. Anyways, go read Much Ado. If this is a pitch for anything, this is a pitch for Much Ado. I will definitely do a video about my favorites. You're going to hear about this book again, 100%. I have to read it occasionally to remind myself that I do like Shakespeare, and this book is just chef's kiss. Amazing. I also want to give an honorable mention to Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This book was not my favorite of the year. It wasn't a 4.75. There are a few other books I've read this year that have been 4.75s. This was a 4.25 for me, but it is such a fantastic book. The strength in this novel relies on the atmosphere. It is such an oppressive, hot summer that you can feel the heat coming off these pages. And when I'm looking at this cover, this bright orange, and the two girls in here that are like overexposed, it's just, the cover even perfectly encapsulates the feeling of this book. It's about this young Irish girl who falls in love with another girl at her school. And this is the early 1980s, so it goes into a lot of Irish history as well, playing in the backdrop. If you've ever watched Dairy Girls, I think that this would be an interesting book for you to read. The atmosphere is so great. I think this would be a perfect summer read. I read this in January, I believe, but I would absolutely give this a try this summer if you're interested. And for my last section to talk about, I'm going to discuss my TBR for the rest of this summer and the rest of this year in total. I have a ton of books that I've been wanting to read and meaning to read for a while now. Number one on that list is Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart. I have not read Shuggie Bain, but I know that this book is supposed to be fantastic. And I just haven't been in the mood to read it this year. I know this is a tearjerker. I'm ready to cry, and I just want to read it. All I know about this book so far is that it's about a Protestant and a Catholic, two young boys who fall in love. And obviously issues arise from that. I've heard that this is good to go in without knowing much. And that is all I need to know that I will like this book. So that's on my TBR. The next book on my TBR is The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. It's about the unraveling of a family. It is a honker though. It's a honker. It's going to take me a while to get to it. I know it will. So are the other two books that I'm mentioning. Young Mungo is a longer book as well as the one I'm picking up next. But I'm really looking forward to this. I love this cover too. I'm so excited. Lastly, out of the books in this section, I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I am a big lover of Sally Rooney's books. I love Normal People. Conversations with Friends is great. I read Beautiful World, Where Are You? I also read Salaryman, which is one of her short stories. I feel like I'm missing a book, but I have read all of Sally Rooney's works other than Intermezzo. I think she's a fantastic writer, writes very well about the intersection of politics and relationships, and I'm excited to read Intermezzo. I believe this is about two brothers and their relationship. I'm ready. And lastly, I have 3 books on my TBR that I want to read because there are movie adaptations coming out. The first on my list is Project Hail Mary. I don't have this one with me because I don't own Project Hail Mary, but I've heard that this book is phenomenal. It's about this man who gets sent into outer space, as far as I know. It's about this guy who gets sent into outer space on a mission to save Earth with other people, and they all go into some sort of like comatose state, and he's the only one who wakes up, and he can't remember anything about the mission or why he's out in outer space. And that sounds fascinating to me. This is another book I know that you're supposed to go in blind and kind of see where that takes you. I know that there's a movie adaptation coming out with Ryan Gosling. Sign me up. I want to watch that movie. And it's such an amazing premise. I've been meaning to get to it for a while. I have read Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. So Project Hail Mary, that's coming out. I've also heard if you are interested in reading Project Hail Mary, don't watch the trailer because I've heard that there are some spoilers in the trailer that you wouldn't get otherwise. So there's that. I also know that Hamnet by Maggie is being turned into an adaptation on the big screen. I'm looking forward to this. I believe it's about Shakespeare's wife and kind of her story with the children and whatnot. And look at that cover. I love that cover. I am super interested in talking about literary figures. I think it's really cool when people make, I guess it would be like historical fiction about people like that. It's very interesting. And I'm looking forward to a movie adaptation of this. Lastly, another book I want to read that has a movie adaptation is Die My Love. I forget who wrote it, but it will be on the screen. There was a movie adaptation that came out with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, which I saw the trailer for. It looks freaky. It looks obsessive. It looks weird. And I am down. I will be sat at that movie theater, so I'm going to be sat reading the book. I want to see that so bad. It looks so good. Yeah, that's the last book I want to read. I don't really know much about it. I think it's about a mother's spiral into insanity. I'm down. Sounds great. I will be there. Yeah, so that is my mid-year freakout tag. Those are all the books I'm looking forward to, things that disappointed me, things that I thought were the greatest that I've read this year. It's honestly been a mixed bag. I think my ratings have been a lot lower than they typically are. I haven't been reading a lot of good books, but I think I just need to find the one that'll shoot me back into reading more often. I currently just finished The Vegetarian. Fantastic book. I think on my immediate TBR, I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I'm definitely a big mood reader, so a lot of the books I mentioned, Intermezzo, Young Mungo, Hamnet, The Bee Sing, I'm not really in the mood for any of those, but I am hoping to finish those by the end of the year. I think more immediately, I do have some library books that I need to get to. I have Immaculate Conception by Ling Huang, which is, let me look. Okay, so it's about these two girls who meet in art school, and then one of them is sort of obsessed with the other one and creates a technology to kind of get closer to her, I think. Very interesting. If you could see a theme, I love books about obsession and toxicity and things like that. It's just so interesting. I also have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is also from the library. I think it's pretty big. It's like 500 something pages. It's due in like less than a week. I don't know if I'm going to get to it right now. Hopefully I will eventually. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab as well. It was a good book. I think there were a lot of missed opportunities, especially with the fact that she kind of only stayed around Europe, but it was still a good book. So I want to give this a chance. I know it involves a queer love story, which I'm interested in, so we'll see. Vampires too. Yeah. So yeah, that's my mid-year freakout tag. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I probably put a lot of effort into this. It has been a while, like a long time, that I've been thinking about starting a booktube channel, or a channel where I could talk about video commentary or movies, things like that. And I love it. I'm hoping to get one of those little clip-on microphones. So eventually I'm probably just going to clip it to this cute little Minecraft flower I made and talk like this. But that's for a later date. So yes, thank you again. If there's any content you want to see, just leave it in the comments. I would be really interested in doing more videos about books that I've enjoyed or disliked. If you want hot takes, things like that, just leave it in the comments. I will read those, trust. Hope you guys have a great day. I am going to go put my books back and then I'm going to go bake something. So I'll see you guys next time.